Wait, this thing was made in 1990? Hey guys, Kakarot197 again. This time with a review of the 1/44 scale high-grade Gundam Mark II from the Zeta Gundam anime series. And man, I gotta say, these old school boxes are amazing. And this time, the model kit inside is equally as amazing. Because yes, this is how you get it out of the box with all of that color on it. All I did in order to achieve this was the panel lining and one sticker that went on the V-fin. The only other stickers that we're getting are marking stickers. In order to achieve this very colorful out-of-the-box construction, Bandai used system injection molding on this machine, which means that they molded multiple colors onto one single part. For example, the gray on the legs is molded together with the white, and then the blue on the chest is molded together with the yellow. Similar thing for the shoulders here, this gray is actually molded together with the white parts. And this made for an extremely advanced model kit, especially for something made in 1990. As far as color accuracy is concerned, the only major thing you have to paint is the top of the feet, and other than that, it's just small details like the insides of thrusters. Seam lines, admittedly, aren't going to be the best because, hey, it is an old model kit, and you essentially have them running right through the middle of every single part. But that does not take away from how absolutely mind-blowing this thing was at the time, and would be for a long time. Another amazing feature this thing had was clear green for the eyes, the main camera, and also the back camera in the head, which was a feature that would not be seen on 1/44 scale model kits again for a long time. And the amazingness doesn't just stop with the base model. When we look at some of the accessories, such as the shield, the colorfulness is simply amazing. So let's also immediately hook it up to the machine. It has a simple swivel thing, so when you attach it to either one of the arms, you can get some nice poses out of it. Then going from the shield to the weapons, let's start with what's already on the machine, the beam sabers. Of course, judging by the age, I'm pretty sure you all guess that these are just dummy beam sabers, but that doesn't mean that you can't use them. Yes, they have pegs, but you could cut them off and then use a drill bit to drill a hole in there so that you can use modern beam saber blades with it, because even though these are dummies, they will fit into the hands. Now, we put this away because we do get something. A single beam saber toothpick, which, yeah, it's not the best thing, but for 1990, I can definitely excuse this. Still, it would have been cool if it came molded in the same green that was used for the eyes. And as you probably guessed, no, the beam saber doesn't stay into the hand. And with that thing out of the way, let's move on to the ranged accessories. First up, we have the beam rifle. Very simple construction, essentially two pieces of plastic slapped together with the handlebar sandwiched in between. Yes, it does move, but it is extremely loose for starters, and also it's actually a little bit too wide to fit into the hands, so you're gonna have to modify them in order to hold on to this thing with both hands. What is really cool is that we get a trigger finger hand dedicated for the beam rifle and also one for the bazooka. And even though you might have spotted that this hand has a peg, there is actually a ball joint inside of the arm. So while he might not be able to hold on to it with both hands, you can pull off some pretty nice poses with this thing. Moving on to the bazooka, nothing here moves, unlike the beam rifle, and if you've ever used one of these bazookas on one of your model kits before, you know that not having a swiveling handle will severely limit the poses you can pull off with this thing. Essentially, what you're going to have to do is use some very clever positioning of your model kit in order to make it look good, because the shoulder is going to be a bit off if you want to use it over the shoulder. Under the shoulder works just fine. And unfortunately, unlike some more modern iterations of the Gundam Mark II, there is no way to store either the bazooka or the beam rifle. Then moving on to the final accessory, the Vulcan Pod earmuffs, which click on very nicely onto the head of the Gundam Mark II, and these are surprisingly solid. although they might look a little bit massive according to your tastes. Now, while those were all of the included accessories, because it's the Gundam Mark II, there's one more possible accessory that we have to talk about. The G Defensor, in order to turn it into the Super Gundam. Of course, it's not technically compatible with the modern G Defensor unless you would drill a hole in the backpack and then it becomes compatible. But what this thing was designed to work with was the old school G Defensor. And this compatibility is very simple. It simply slides over the backpack just like that. And finally, let's have a look at the articulation of this thing. As you might have been able to tell by the action poses in this review, it's not nearly as bad as you would expect. This is because this thing uses an actual inner frame. Not nearly as detailed as a master grade, of course, but it is there, making this thing almost like an early real grade. And like I said, giving it some surprising articulation. The head goes simply up and down and will also rotate around all the way. It's on a peg, not a ball joint. The arms will rotate around all the way. No forwards and backwards movement, even though you might expect that because of this. Then they go up a little bit like that, rotate around above the elbow. Then the elbow itself bends on one joint, not quite 90 degrees. And then the hands are, as I mentioned previously, on ball joints, will turn around, wiggle around, and do everything a ball joint does. While we're looking at the chest, one really surprising thing is that it actually opens up on two joints. Now, there is no inner detail whatsoever, but it is still a really cool feature for a 1/44 scale high grade from 1990. The backpack, these wings do move, but they don't move forwards and backwards. They move in and out. Also, as you might have noticed, the backpack is kind of loose on there. That's because it's not actually pegged in there, but it's clicked in there, and it's not the most secure click ever, so you might want to glue that. The thrusters also don't move. Now, something that you might expect to be there, but isn't there, waist articulation. There is none whatsoever. What then is extremely cool when we look at the waist, the skirts are individually jointed out of the box. Of course, the side skirts will also go out. Now, forwards movement is about that far. Backwards movement, a little bit. Outwards, also really nicely. No real side-to-side movement here. It goes a little bit, but actually you get a little bit more side-to-side movement out of the knees. Then the knees, in addition to the side-to-side movement, will also give you one joint like that. Not the best, but for the time, perfectly understandable. And the feet go forwards, actually very far. Backwards also nicely, will rotate around and also go side to side. So overall, while the articulation has aged extremely poorly, for the time and for a long time afterwards, this articulation was excellent. This then brings us to the inevitable question of, do you want to buy this in 2019 or whenever you're watching this somewhere in the future? Because unfortunately, as amazing and mind-blowing as this thing was on release, it hasn't aged extremely well. But that doesn't mean that there's absolutely no reason to still pick this thing up today. If you're willing to put in a little bit of effort, what you will end up with is a very nice representation of the old school, classic, chunky Gundam Mark II. And if you could have picked it up for 1,000 yen today, I would have said, go for it. Of course, if you like those old school proportions. The only issue is, it's gotten pretty collectible and you won't be able to find it for that 1,000 yen anymore. So the only people I would recommend these things for today now is either people who really dig old school model kits or people who want to collect these. Because for 1,000 yen, yes, but for triple the price, if you just want a Gundam Mark II, there are better options out there. But these don't come with this amazing manual. I don't just love old school boxes. Old school manuals also have their own charm. Also, something I didn't mention during the review is, if you look at the manual, like the cover model, there are actually details on here that aren't on the model kit itself. And if you go on to the back, it just gives you like a completely modified Gundam Mark II. I mean, this is not just the stock model that you get by painting. But hey, when you fold open the manual, you get so much nice detail that you usually don't get with a high-grade model kit. This is master grade level manualness. And to wrap things up with a few size comparisons, here he is next to the other model kits from his high-grade line. And out of all of them, I think in terms of looks, the Mark II definitely aged the best. And for anyone unconvinced that those 4 high grades looked amazing for their time, here is the Mark II next to the younger 1/44 scale Rose Gundam and 1/44 scale Heavy Arms. And of course, being a high grade Gundam Mark II, I also have to compare him to the newer high grade Duels of Centuries. On the left is the older version, and on the right is the revived version. It's definitely interesting to see how the proportions of the Gundam Mark II have evolved over the years. And then here he is also next to the real great Gundam Mark II. And finally, here he is next to the standard size Gym Custom and the always bulky Zaku 3. And that's all for this review. I hope you have a great day. A big thank you to the Patreon supporters, and I will see you all next time.